I'm Jenn Edginton, Curator of Social Studies Education at the Kenosha Museum campus. I'm here today to talk a little bit about our Potawatomi village that we have at the Kenosha Public Museum. And really its role, you'll find out a little bit in the fur trade as well. So we are in front of the summer house right now, but we're going to be talking about how the Potawatomi survived. Before we do that though, we want to acknowledge that Kenosha is on several American Indian ancestral lands, including the Potawatomi. So the Potawatomi were here. They were also in Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. And they were part of the Anishinaabe. So the Anishinaabe was made up of three tribes, the Potawatomi, the Ojibwe, and the Odawa. Those three tribes did focus really in Michigan, and then they split up. The Ojibwe went north. We have them in northern Wisconsin and into Minnesota and in northern Michigan. The Odawa stayed in Michigan, and the Potawatomi came down around the southern part of Lake Michigan. So we are on Potawatomi land. The Potawatomi lived in Kenosha from about the 1630s to the 1830s roughly, and they were engaged in the fur trade from the 1650s to the 1850s. The Potawatomi themselves, they lived in Kenosha or the surrounding area for all 4 seasons. And as you can imagine, in the late 1700s or early 1800s, Kenosha looked a lot different. There weren't a lot of stores, there were none. There weren't any permanent residents yet. So Kenosha looked very different, and they needed to adapt to make sure that they survived. The Potawatomi themselves had 4 main ways of getting their food. One is hunting or gathering. We are located right on Lake Michigan, so that's perfect for fishing, right? So hunting and fishing. We have an example in our summer house here of some of the foods that they would eat. On this wall here, we do have a fish that they could have found in this area. Another way that they would have gotten food is by gathering. Kenosha had a lot of wild plants that would have been available to eat or to use in other capacities. So we have here a Potawatomi woman who is making a basket. She would have gathered that wood, it's probably ash, to make that basket. Behind her is potatoes. That would have been gathered too. And there are berries that are located right next to it. All of those would have been gathered. So gone out into the woods, gone out into nature, gathered and brought back. Another way that they got food was to grow it. So the Potawatomi did stick to the 3 sisters. That's corn, squash, and beans. Those were the main 3 that they grew. And if we look in our pot over here, we see that there is some corn. So we can see that they would use what they grew as well. And lastly, the other way that they got the supplies they needed was to trade. So, as you can imagine, this nice kettle pot did not grow on a tree. They needed to trade with the Europeans that had the manufactured goods to receive it and to be able to use it. So in exchange for things like metal or the clothing that she's wearing, they would trade for furs. So beaver pelts were the main currency, but there were other animals that they would also trade for: deer, fox, otters. So a little bit about the Potawatomi. They are still here. Forest County Potawatomi is located in Crandon, Wisconsin, and there are 9 nations of Potawatomis that are in the United States and Canada today. We hope that you come to the museum and see our 4-season village.